Greetings, everyone. This is Joanna from Universal Love, Light, Wisdom, Heavenly Radiance, and the Sacred Corner. Thank you so much for tuning in and connecting with us today in this sacred communion, allowing all that you are to open and receive new information, new wisdoms, and new codes by the highest heavenly councils that offer us support, benevolence, and activations within our light programs, individually and as a collective and as a planet, as the galaxy, as we like to always move within the micro and the macro of all that we are, so that we get used to the expansiveness of who we are and who we are becoming, allowing ourselves to remember that we are infinite source beings. And as we do so, we release the density, we release the blocks and the hurdles, belief systems, fears, attitudes, anything that is subjugating us, pulling us down, and living in us in any way, to live in a full liberation of who we are as spirit source, omnipresent. That omnipresence is your awareness and the acknowledgement of all that you are as source, as spirit, in a human experience. Moving against and within a profound transition that often feels like there's the juxtaposition and the push and the pull and the friction of energies, which is meant to be. It's always the process of evolution in any experiment, and we find the environment shifts from who we are as the vibration and our core intentions on who we believe ourselves to be. For the Lord Sananda bringing that to me a few months ago. We've recently put out an article about sovereignty and how it is a core attribute to the human ascension. Sovereignty within each of us individually is being offered now with our global situation, allowing us to dive deeper within reflection and examination about who we are, and what our true values are, what is really important to us as a species, what is really important to us as a collective community. And we see in that reflection and in that that examination, the world that we've been asked to step away from and reflect upon seems a bit different, because we in and of ourselves are awakening to a deeper part of who we are, a more expansive, beautiful, omnipresent, eternal, infinite part of who we are, which is Source Creator. Mass awakenings occurring at the moment because of our world and global experience. And oftentimes it doesn't have to take, in all of our eons of experience, it doesn't require that we move through tragedy to awaken to who we are. Oftentimes it does, because it requires that time to be present and still. And we just offered a video on our channel, Universal Love, Light, Ascension, Wisdoms, and Heavenly Radiance, about the profundity of allowance and presence. That presence and allowance is that divine feminine frequency that allows the unconditional movement of source essence, the elixir of life, that has been written in many sacred scriptures, regardless of what tradition of spirituality that we understand our worlds to be dissected within, compartmentalized within. We tend in our offerings to take away all compartmentalization, because that is the process of evolution, is stripping back what no longer serves, stripping back what has been compartmentalized into such a refined state of limitation that it doesn't allow for growth and evolution, or it allows for such strict judgment that separates parties and it separates belief systems, people. And it is our oneness through which we have come to explore and express and experience. And so what we wanted to offer today, and through those offerings that we had earlier this week, is how soul relationships, how they allow us to become all that we're meant to be. And in the understanding of soul relationships, we can step back, and within this global reflection that each and every one of us are at the micro perspective, now offering ourselves as individuals to reflect and integrate what is now important to us as a soul, as an awakened soul. I am a soul being. I'm more than I thought I was a moment ago. I'm an individual with divine spiritual experiences and vast knowledge, gifts and intelligences and creativity and imaginings that we're now moving into from those reflections of sovereignty, those reflections of independence, those reflections of liberation, and then expanding into the creativity of imagining beyond the 3D, imagining beyond the 4D. The fourth dimension is a really vibrational healing dimension. And it's a very emotional dimension through which the soul is healed through those emotional waters of all that we've experienced through 3D. As many are awakening right now, most are still working through the third dimensional frequencies and the belief systems that we've held. As you tear away all limitation and all subjugation and all fear and worry, you become opened into the emotional vibration of who you are as a being of light. Now, if the emotional body and the multidimensional bodies, the physical, the emotional, the mental, etheric, of course, there's many more bodies, but we're just giving you the 4 lower bodies. And as the higher I am presence moves down to meet with the lower presence, and we only say that not in quantitative, but just how, because we are physical beings. In the awakening process, these bodies of sacred geometry begin to merge, which becomes the Star of David, the Merkaba, that begins to spin and oscillate at a faster speed as you release the density, as you release the baggage. and that is literal, meaning that it works within the micro-macro of who we are as beings, every cell, every molecule, every atom, that we have control, our sovereignty to begin working within. This beautiful template and this beautiful omnipresence essence that is Source Creator. We've talked about the fields of Source within and without. And it is micro-macro. Everything is that fluidic movement of transmutation. If you so desire, it's always free will. The awakening process allows you to, wow, that felt a trigger there. I've got that, I've just had this weird experience in my dream. So your teams and your higher self will be allowing you to tap into synchronicities that will pull you deeper into the rabbit hole, if you will, so that you can explore who you are and why Alice in Wonderland was so magnetic to us as a species in that story in and of itself, that the more deeply we dive, the more of us that we find, the more expansive beauty that we find. Oftentimes, yes, we have to work through the challenges and those triggers because they come with many traumas and they come with many pains. But as we heal those pains, in the 4 lower bodies, we're managing ourselves to rebalance and create a higher vibrational homeostasis, which means that cell by cell, atom by atom, we're recorrecting the multidimensional allness of who we are. We're becoming more Christic, more Metatronic and light. And that speeds the cell oscillation up, meaning that our mental field becomes higher and more refined because we're no longer allowing ourselves to be steeped in the fear and the worry and the subjugation and buying into many of the collective genres of fear and misunderstandings and misinformations that are moving about. We tend to step back and get off that cycle of socioeconomic paradigms that are requiring a change. So the more that each and every one of us step back from what was, reflecting on it from a higher perspective to say, does that really ring true for me and who I am right now? There's no judgment at all on anything that we've co-created, because it's been each and every one of us that has co-created everything that we've ever judged. And why we've always said that in the process of awakening and ascension, your own spirituality is to detach from anything that feels as if it's a judgment or not you, and reflect upon what is within it that is yours, because everything within our collective is one with us. And that's how we begin our healing, to see that I created that judgment because I had this occur to me when I was a child, or maybe it comes from another Akashic timeline. It doesn't matter what story you attach it with, and it's good to not attach stories with it, but to deal with the emotion behind it, to deal with the trauma and the experience behind it, and to call it forward, because it's you. And that's why we can often say, call the fears and the demons forward, because they're you in that reflective form that says, at one point I disregarded you, at one point I disrespected you, at one point I dishonored you, and I want to call you forward. That's what soul fragment healing is. When you have a multidimensional soul fragment healing from a 3 to 5D, that soul fragment is your higher self and your soul are calling in that in divine timing, when you're mentally, emotionally, physically, and etherically ready to call that in to be healed. You have gained the gifts and the tools of all that you are as Christic. You don't need anything outside of you to heal these soul fragments. Oftentimes you do, because sometimes they're very traumatic. I've experienced many, many, many of them, and that's why I can offer my musings forward and my experiences forward, because some of them are very traumatic. And many times I could have had teams of beings with me. I have had to, I know there's absolutely, because I can feel them, and I know the help and the support that is the benevolent field of Source. So I can speak to that and honor that and be a part of that and offer it to those who so desire, that feel those inclinations for the expansiveness of who we are as omnipresent Source beings. But oftentimes it may require outside counseling. It may require dietary change. It may require the shifting of the soul relationship families, and the relationships that we've held, and our understanding of them, and why we see those shiftings and harmonizations in and out for change and evolution, because your soul is setting that vibration. You at the core of you becomes that awakened state. I'm going to look into this. I'm going to read more about this. I'm going to take a class. I'm going to do some dream journaling. I'm going to start to journal and paint, exploring who you are to heal what's coming forward in your daily self-care, clearing out your chakras every day, clearing your fields, clearing your bodies, doing your dream journaling as we've offered. All of those experiences allow you to reflect upon the providence and the benefit and the profundity that your soul relationships have offered you, even from the moment of your birth. Many of our soul relationships have been brought to us, and we've agreed in the highest of soul contracts, oversoul of oversoul of oversoul, because we're all threaded on an infinite number of dimensions and planets right now. Concurrent now moment, there is only now. And the more that we allow in this moment to create that sovereign judgment call of what we feel we are worthy of, it's all about love and worthiness. How are you worthy to move forward in this now moment? What matters now? Releasing all that was and choosing from this moment how you choose to move forward and create that new 5D loop, that vibration that allows all to be called into you from that vibrational experience and acknowledgement and claiming it so. And those soul contracts and those soul relationships, whether it be a twin flame, the twin flame and the soulmate are often misunderstood. And it's okay, there's no judgment. The twin flame are relationships that come to us from a myriad of lifetimes that usually carry karmic experiences for us to work through. They can be quite painful and challenging, pulling us back and forth and stretching us like, the Play-Doh and the super silly sludge, that the kids play with. That's how you feel in twin flame relationships. They're usually offering us the shadow aspects for rebalancing and healing. The twin flame relationships allow us to stand within, usually, most often than not, the core vibration of that healing is self-love and self-empowerment to sovereignty and liberation, because they come with so many karmic lifetimes of back and forth. You each played the oppressor, you each played the aggressor, you each play these roles back and forth to learn. And once those karmic lessons, as we've talked about before, 51% of our 3 to 4D karmic lessons have been cleared and honored, clearing out the chakra system, clearing out the belief systems of the mental, emotional, physical, and etheric. That's why the daily self-care is so important, because it clears that 51% of karmic stuff that we've all been part of co-creating with one another, with Gaia, with the all. So as we clear and we heal and understand the highest representation of what these soul relationships offer us, then we can step back from that highest perspective and say, wow, you really brought me into my highest awareness of my inner power. I really thank you for that. And I honor the relationship, regardless of how challenging it was, I honor it. And I honor you as the soul, as God that you are. In that honor and appreciation, you let that go, that karmic, tying of that cord, if you will, those cords, those spells, those contracts, whatever we want to call them. You choose to let that go in that honoring and saying, I choose now to move into this frequency of knowing. I choose this type of soul relationship now. And your soul and your higher self will begin to call in that vibratory experience that you choose to co-create. But first, we must understand the soul relationships that we have. What has each come to allow you to explore, to experience, and express of who you are as source? Are you being giving enough? Are you receiving what you should receive? There are certain energies allowing you to stand in your truth and say, okay, these are my boundaries, and this is what's now good for me, and setting those boundaries that allow you to explore all that you are and not compromise your light in any way. And what many will be going through because of this mass awakening experience and because of our planetary experience is many are awakening to the reflections of the soul and saying, my soul is aching and urging through the synchronicities, through, the things that your soul is guiding you to, your spirit is guiding you to, whether it's Reiki or whether it's crystal healing, whether it's to gather with Soul Tribe. There's an infinite number of beings that are working with each and every one of us to thread us together. Our souls and our higher selves are threading us together as Soul Tribe to create these communities of light that we create these gatherings and these groups of like-souled vibrational beings so that we can now take the collective to a new frequency of co-creation and participation and evolution. And so that's the evolutionary process and why our soul relationships come to us in the way that they do. But we have to take responsibility and ownership to say, okay, I've done that lesson. It's done now. It's been so done. And many times we often stay in those karmic relationships, like dysfunction or codependency is so profound and prevalent through our 3D frequencies because it's what we were taught from our previous generations. Traditions that were steeped in limitations, traditions that were steeped in misinformation about our sovereignty and our freedom as souls. There's many misinterpretations between the highest frequencies that were brought from source through the many masters and the prophets, and then they got further delineated and further restricted and then misinterpreted along the many eons of time into such a confined, controlled system that it became very controlled and misunderstood. And so now many of the awakening beings, many masters that walk among us, are coming forward to begin offering that vast, omnipresent, infinite truth again about who we are. Every truth is valid because it fits for those that are needing it at that time. So there is no judgment on any of it. We're giving you the overview of the omnipresence, is infinite, omnipresent spirit. And each and every one of us have that sovereign free will to explore it in however way we choose. So we come forward with the idea that every relationship, whether it's one that you see on TV, whether it's one that you're sown with in a really tight family experience, there's many generations and there's many planets and there's many experiences that are sown with it. There is divine timing that will rethread the frequencies as you set your core intention through your heart, through your soul intention. I choose to explore this as my soul now. Those vibrations of pure intent begin to thread your vibration, those loving radiations, as we talked about, from the divine mind to who we are as micro macro. That radiation of love and curiosity and creativity and imagining with source, your partnership with source, however we call it, God, omnipresence, the all that is, doesn't matter how we define source, creator, all that is. It's your experience as a spirit, as the omnipresence, the all beyond sight, sound, form, because it's your quantum existence as omnipresence in a physical being. And so that pulsation of radiation through intention and excitement and joy, your oneness with source, to explore with source, to co-create with source, in every moment, the field of source, you as source, starts to begin to pull threads in, these vibrational threads in of that soul tribe co-creation, because it's dynamically, divinely designed at times of great and profound collective evolutionary stages, that these soul contracts begin weaving in and out, and soul contracts will leave in a mesh and move into other frequencies. It's all vibrationally. If you've ever seen a science experiment, and you can even just do this on your stove, and you have, you say you put a liquid in a pan, in a flat pan, and you turn the heat on medium, and you begin to see the different particles start to move about, and then you put in another element, say some oil, and those element particles of that oil will begin to move around, and they'll begin to harmonize within other oil particles. And so it's no different to what's happening in the frequency, because it's all vibration. So the vibratory frequency of where you're at will call in the frequencies that will match, obviously, and harmonize. And it's the natural state of who we are as all things being vibrational. Once we claim it and acknowledge that at that soul level, then we can see how we honor one another and reflect one another what's needed at any given time. Because we have been so egoically patterned, we often only see it from one perspective, and we don't necessarily see it from the highest self perspective. However, once that higher self and lower self begin to harmonize and merge, you're calling in your higher self to live as your higher self. The highest self aspect, and the ego usually takes that observatory role to assist you in still manifesting what needs to be manifested in the physical form through the soul and the spirit of self, all self, omni-self. That then experience changes and shifts how you perceive yourself within the world and the world itself. Not necessarily being a part of the world, being in it but not of it, and allowing yourself to co-create from that highest self perspective, to say, I understand this co-creational relationship experience. It's taught me to open up my heart fully and just love you unconditionally. but know that too, that I can stand in my truth and choose to co-create in this way with others. And that's when you make those self-discerning moments of soulful choosing, and that vibrational reality, that timeline, that's how you've shifted that timeline, because you've made that choice. You've understood what served its purpose in all aspects of its meeting the soul contract of what is required. It doesn't necessarily say that when you've made this 5D choice that those contracts will stop. They won't. They just happen and occur at a subtle level, because now perhaps those that you've chosen to release, they will still have that soul experience to perceive from and to say, wow, that happened and occurred to me and I grew from that, whether it be painful or exciting or joyful. However, because they're experienced in an infinite number of ways on both sides, on all sides, the all. So there's always those subtle learning experiences that the soul wants to co-create. But what is what's really important in every moment is to remember and realign with your Christed sovereignty. In this moment, I'm aligned in love. And how is love directing me and guiding me? That alignment in love allows you many things. And it takes practice, because we've been so egoically patterned in fear and subjugation and worry and control and systems of such deprivation to this creative spirit. Worry about stepping outside of familial rules and contracts, familial societal expectations. And those are something each and every one of us, make no mistake about it, because we're a collective that's ascending into absolute liberation of soulful experience and expression and exploration. Each and every one of us will have to deal with those societal themes within our soul's contracts to deal with. Our soulful relationships help us reflect on those, because there will be those that you will be sown with that will be offering their perspective of your choices, and or challenging you, or saying, hey, let's do this. So there's an infinite number of ways that those can be experienced. Each of us will go through our own unique frequencies. As people start to awaken, you start to create that desire to be with nature more, that desire to be with spirit more, to be as spirit more, to create different eating habits. We release the word habit, because that belongs in a experience where you have to create something to fulfill something. That's what a habit is. But you're living free and liberated, and just allowing your soul and your spirit to choose what your body needs at any given time. And that's living as the highest essence of source and spirit, tuning in as spirit and source. And also to your relationships and anything that you're drawing to yourself, and having spirit allow that guidance, living as the soul and not as the ego self. And so those relationships help you reflect upon that. So just be okay with the fact that as you go through these ascension transitions about rediscovering who you are, reawakening who you are, that you're a divine sovereign being, and your soul will offer you an infinite number of, I've been going through this for many, many years, so I'm offering this in my own personal experience. Your soul and your higher self will offer you an infinite number of synchronicities, dreams, usherings, divine, heavenly intervention, until you create that soulful path that you are meant to create, that you're at your soul level, you knew that you came to explore at some point, at some level. It doesn't mean to say that that one destiny, that one experience has to be what you fulfill. It doesn't. What it is saying is that if you have and come from the experience at a multi-omnipresent experience as a profound universal communicator, at some point, unless that energy is explored, expressed, and experienced, your soul won't stop until that is fanned out and begun. And then it's up to you to decide how you feel to explore that. But this is what I've been moving through my entire life, is understanding that I've come with a great propensity and a desire and a creative aid to offer my omnipresent communication skills, wisdoms, intelligences, how I'm threaded throughout the universe. So you can tell my throat already clearing. Those are the soul themes that I've been clearing for eons, to know that I do come with heavenly wisdoms. I do come with heavenly intelligences of the omnipresent, that I can tune into and tap into the divine mind, and I can be fed the information and directed the information from the heavenly councils of light that are here to assist evolution, light programs in all ways. And suppressing it, denying it from a very early age, understanding that I'm able to communicate with nature, with the fairies, with Gaia, I'm able to communicate with animals and all things that are source, because that's the divine mind. But as you can see, my throat now. So as I'm speaking it, I'm clearing those densities. I'm clearing those beliefs that thought that my voice was not important, that my creative expression was not important, that my intelligences and wisdoms were less than others. And those are things that the karmic you, the you, physical vessel you, moves through to clear and heal the densities, so that you can rise in your vibration and be your full expressive Christic self. And it takes work, it takes devotion. Are you committed to being your full source essence? Your soul will continue, and your higher self will always continue to offer you opportunities where you speak your truth, your voice. Your throat chakra, your I am presence, is that ability, that portal of light that God lives through you, source lives through you, the omnipresent lives through you. And whatever experiences you've had, your psyche will remember, and you'll have those soul relationships that will test you and tempt you to transcend. And that's why the soul relationships are so very important, and why we're healing in all moments, and why we can let go and step back and honor those reflections and honor the teachings of those sacred relationships. All relationships are sacred. All relationships are sown with your soul's highest potential in mind. The omnipresent is benevolent. It is an intelligent design of source. So you have this intelligence of benevolence always with you in all moments, within and without, to assist you in directing the life that you so desire to co-create within. And so those soul relationships, they're far more than we can think or imagine, are sown and threaded at every vibrational level. And you will be, again, offered urgings and sensings and dynamic soul knowings when it's time to step away and release and let go. Releasing and let go is through divine soul choice at your heart level, to say, I'm done with that. I'm done with the fear. I'm done with the subjugation. I'm done with whatever belief systems that held me back, and roles that I'm not comfortable with anymore, or behaviors I'm no longer comfortable with receiving anymore, or with experiences I'm no longer willing to partake in. So those are the soul and self-care energies that you get to that point of building your I am presence, your solar plexus, I am. And that's that boundary setting to say, well, that might be okay for you now to continue those behaviors, but I'm stepping away and I'm doing this now. And it will be each person's individual path to transition those relationships, vibrational relationships. These transitions can go in an infinite and a myriad of ways. So we want to be very clear about this, because there's many interpretations that are, again, separative based on the vibration that they hold as a perspective. There is no separation as far as our allness. Anybody, regardless of what you're going through and how challenging, how varied in vibration it may seem or appear, because you have no idea that that person standing before you that may offer you the highest challenge may be a master that they're not willing to accept or honor or heal yet. So all are God, and we can and release all judgment that we have about that separative experience. That's about coming to your center and knowing that you are God. I see you as God, and I experience you as the godliness that I perceive you from, but I choose to create in this way now. So what we want to say about that transition experience is that releasing, again, in honor and appreciation of all beings being masters and gods, because they are. They're just perhaps at their stage of their soul's journey are not ready yet to do the healing that's required to remember themselves as God or the master or the angel that they've come to be. Because they are. We all are. We all are connected, and our energies are with the angels, the archangels, realms, the masters, the shamans, the oracles, however we want to define them. Again, definitions really box us in. The understanding of ascension occurring, and there being various dimensions and there being various definitions, are, again, limiting us, because we're now separating our mind that, that somehow they're not able to come on the journey with us. That's still separating and moving them and us type of energies, and that's not what this is about at all. It's about understanding that each and every individual has that sovereign liberation and free will to co-create in whatever way they so desire. And it will be experienced in an infinite number of ways, but to still honor all experiences as one, because we are. They're showing us what we need to see in that moment to drop our judgment. They're showing us what we need in that moment to love unconditionally. And so they are us and we are them in all ways. We're just choosing to ride fluidically, as Source showed me. It doesn't matter what you see before you, however scary or frightening it might appear, because in some of my experiences, because of the fears that I was here to transcend, some of them because I was magnifying them to me, that these energies and these experiences, the fear energies, were so profound, and Source just said, just turn to me. I'm here, I'm one. So it's the perspective that you hold. Okay, well, I can face that fear and say, this no longer serves me. I choose to walk with Source. And it's just turning your head. I walk with Source, as Source. It's all Source. But because your fear has magnified it to become that giant that it is, you're creating that experience. You're creating everything. That's why we've said those judgments in any way, they co-create at a subtle level until they become so over magnified that it becomes the monster under the bed. We create it all. It has no idea. It's just magnifying and being created from the fear that you're holding or the worry that you're holding. And it's no different with our children in those relationships. Let go of worry. Let go of the ideas and the notions that we have to control our children's path, that we have to work everything out or solve all their problems and make their path as easy as possible. They come as masters. They are masters, far more masterful in their genetic design than our generation, because every generation has an expanded frequency of DNA. So we perceive all beings before us as masters and as God. That shifts your perspective. That just lets you sit back and say, okay, let go of all the judgment. We're all God. We're all just on a unique path. And it's not for us to judge or demean or devalue anyone's experience, because at one point, that's our healing. It is. And as you go through your subtle soul fragment healing, you will feel it and sense it. As I was awakening and I'm healing some of my soul fragments, and I've said in many of our radio offerings, when you awaken to who you are as an omnipresent, you will be healing those aspects of you that played all roles, and they're not comfortable. That allows us to fully unconditionally love who we are, to radically accept who we are in the most unconditional way, so that we love everything that we are, so that all that falls before us is sacred and loving and human, to teach us to grow in that depth of oneness that Source sees in us as we are. So it's really important to know and honor the soul relationships and how high we have designed them to serve us and to serve the all. We are serving the collective contract for light program of evolution. However, because of the ego program, we only see it from our own perspective. Oh, that person did something bad to me. Well, because it was an energy of your worthiness that allowed that to occur. So now we're going to stand in our power. We're going to say, that's not working for me anymore. I love you as God, but I'm going to go this way now. And so this is allowing it to be that fluidic process. And yes, it sounds easier than done. I can say that because I've experienced years and years of myself denying myself of my voice, eons, lifetimes of denying my voice. So I can express this in a myriad of multiple ways. So this is one of the blessings that I've been given to all of the gifts that I've had, and why I come with the gifts and the eons of being able to see the Akashic timelines and feel the soul fragment healing, because I can see it from these varying perspectives and know that it's far harder to move through than it is just to say, let it go and heal it. It's a process, because that familiar self-worthiness is linked to probably 150 timelines where you have lacked self-worthy, claiming of who you are. So I say that from the perspective of the infinite that it can be perceived and experienced, not for its depth of value, because I've absolutely had to move through every experience of human devaluing that you can think of, and I can remember and feel it. Just because something did not occur in this lifetime doesn't mean it doesn't affect me, because I can feel it. When the subtle bodies turn on and you can see all of your lifetimes and you're healing all of your lifetimes, then you get to understand how crucially important it is to release all judgment and fear and worry as often as you can. As soon as it creeps up, even if in a little way, if your child goes out the door and you're worried, just turn it off. They're a master. I've offered them and I've empowered them and inspired them to love themselves and to know that they are masters. And you've done all that you can to inspire the godliness in them, to encourage the godliness in them, and allow them to have their path unfolding. It doesn't mean, obviously those safety rules that we all have to follow, but this is how parenting will shift and change. Because those subtle worries, those subtle fears, those subtle subjugations, they co-create. You're feeding into that timeline that person with you is co-creating. And that's what we've offered in many times, but sometimes you have to sit back and just reflect on that. That worry that I have for my child is co-creating a timeline of that worry to unfold. And how does it feel for your soul? And we don't mean to say that for any fear in and of itself, but it does co-create. So then you sit back and say, I'm going to perceive you from a perspective that you're a master now. I've told you a jillion times you're a master. You're choosing to believe it whenever you choose to believe it. And I want you to have the most fullest life that you can, but it's your life. And I'm going to support you, honor you, empower you, inspire you however I can. You are a master. I know you're God. You have so many gifts, you don't even know what your gifts are. I'm going to release the worry. You are who you are. You're an amazing being. You're going to have an amazing life. And I'm releasing all worry from this. Because I choose to create a timeline with you that's magnetic on infinite potential, that's magnetic on infinite blessings of us working together and loving one another and empowering one another and supporting one another. It's also their choice whether they want to entangle that or not, but you can choose to direct your energy instead of worry and fear, creating that timeline and that experience, or you can choose to create one that's infinite, empowered with their masterful. And this again, because I've been working through this for many years now, this again takes practice from the ego and the timelines that we've been steeped within for eons. And it's what our new opening and living from this soul space and that presence, being present and allowing source to live through you, releasing all fears and worries and subjugation, and allowing you to be that full, soulful, creative self that you're meant to be. And so those are the dynamics of the fifth dimension and how our soul relationships play with us in these very profound, intricate, elegant ways that we can look at it from that higher perspective. You have so served me. You have taught me so much about unconditional love, just to be vulnerable, just to be vulnerable and let my guard down. Because you've accepted me unconditionally. You haven't wanted me to be put into a box or to follow certain roles or to follow certain, societal roles or behavior. You've allowed me to fully be who I am. And I honor you for that. And that's how the relationships become unconditional. For honoring every relationship for how it's allowing you at that center point to expand into something new through your awareness. How we often don't move from that and keep experiencing the same merry-go-round is because we don't allow ourselves to drop and be present first to say, what part of my relationships need a dramatic rewrite? Am I valuing myself and my time and my spiritual gifts and my desires for greater health and wellness or greater time with Gaia, greater creativity, greater imagining? And am I doing that? How can I begin now? I really want to honor my spirituality. I want to pray as often as I can. I want to be communion with the source, with Gaia. And all of those energies, set your expectation for you, your soul's vibration. Then those relationships all shift. They have to. And what I've been shown and offered many, many times is that as hard as it might be to move into a frequency and make choices that are unseen at this point, because many of us have come as mavericks and as leaders to lead the collective into new ways of perceiving and thinking and pondering and wondering how our human collective can move into a 5D frequency. And many of us are the front runners to begin paving the way, clearing the way. And why we always talk about societal and familial transitions and ascension, because it's shifting the vibration. And as many times as I've been told, is that many of my choices and decisions will seem preposterous or out of the norm by those that are perceiving it from that perspective of these are our social norms and this is what we've always done. Why would you do that? Because, and this is the experience that I've had to heal throughout my entire lifetime, in many lifetimes. Many lifetimes I didn't fulfill my soul's journey because it was just too fearful for me, because I remember other lifetimes where it caused death, persecution, or confinement. And that's part of the soul fragment healing that we each move through. But to know that, again, what I can feel and sense through is to know that anything that we create as a fear is created from within us, from those experiences that we can sense and feel, but we just don't know where they come from. And those are those triggers that are Akashic and in your timelines and in the psyche, those energetic vibrations that you're here to transcend and face. Just face it and say, every moment that I can, I will commit to transcending that fear and opening my heart into love, because you walk with God. You are with Source every moment. And that just allows you to fall back and go, okay, clear your chakras, because you can feel your whole body tense up when you get those moments of worry or fear. And just surrender. I surrender into Source. I'm one with Source. I'm love. I'm whole and I'm healed and I am love. Those 3 statements allow you to release so much fear and worry so that you can shift and say, oh, I'm whole, I'm healed, and I'm loved. Okay, now I choose to create like this. You're a master, you're going to be fine. Let me know if you need any creative help or inspiration. I'm here for you. I love you unconditionally. You're God. And I want you to explore yourself as God in whatever way that your soul wants you to explore. And I'll be here to, to always empower you to be your biggest cheerleader because you're God. And then you create through that calm, present allowance. I'm creating from this beautiful space that I'm one with God, and I'm meant to co-create. I'm meant to explore. I'm meant to express myself fully as source. And so many of us are mavericks that have to transcend many, 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 many eons of subtle and not so subtle energies through which you're defying family tradition, you're defying social norms, you're defying anything that seems to be boxed and limited, because the spirit and the soul just want to soar. We are infinite beings of infinite light, and we just want to soar. And that's why we come with all of the challenges that we do. And again, we can honor the soul relationships that allow us to carve that path, to clear the way for others to come forward. And so I know that that's one of my roles. I can say that now. But it's certainly not enjoyable going through the process. But there will be those moments that every person will move through to say, I'm ready to let go of what was. And in every person's journey, it will be uniquely different. Some it will be very subtle and easy, and some it will be profound and challenging, depending on what your soul is here to move through. For me, because I've had so many lifetimes of subjugation on all ends of it, all realms, all roles, it's been a really big challenge. And for me to finally, my soul is in my teams and my higher self, me, the soul in me is saying, your children will show you, nature will show you, creation will show you, the universe will keep reminding you. The infinite number of teams that I'm threaded with will keep reminding you that you must carve this path. This is what your soul wants. My soul is sending out that radiation. I will carve my path and I will speak my truth because it's now time. All of those timelines that we showed you in that diagram, the center of who I am must express myself as source. I can no longer hold myself back. And it's me holding me back. I have held myself back in every vibrational realm, regardless of whether it seemed as if I was persecuted. That was me holding myself back in that vibration to say that my voice wasn't valued or wasn't important enough to have my voice heard and my gifts offered. Whether others take it or not, that's part of the free flow of source, right? You base who you are and all that you are as your expression and your excitement just to be you. However it's being received, that's not for anyone to control, because again, that's egoic, thinking it has to fit within the expectations or the paradigms that the ego wants it to be safe, to be valued, or to be received by nominal or monetary value. And so that's healing the ego on every level, because we will be exchanging gifts and trade for our uniqueness, and have it be that we are offering all that we are as the gifts and the blessings that we are. And so we just wanted to say, offer that forward, that there are so many dynamics in what we're moving through as a collective, as individuals, the micro and the macro perspective. And it's very deeply profound in each of our soul's healings. We are so profound and vast and omnipresent, and the work and how far we've come as souls and as beings, we're completely shifting the potentiation of the human evolutionary journey. And it's so exciting. So to be gentle and honoring of who you are as a spirit and a soul, and to know that those moments through which you fall into the hands of Source, you fall into the heart and love of Source, to say, I'm not sure how to carry myself forward. Please, I surrender. I'm devoted to this process of self-love. Please show me the way. And honor yourself in that. Allow yourself the ability to not know all the answers, because you don't. I've often told my kids that sometimes come home worried, about school and about something they feel that they have to know, and they've been worried for weeks, thinking that they had to work it out, or to live up to a societal perspective that's not who they are, and they feel those pressures. And I said, this is life. This is a moment-for-moment journey of learning. You're never going to know the answer. You're not supposed to. You're just supposed to trust who you are at the heart level. Allow yourself to ask for help. Allow yourself to know that there's people here that want to support and inspire you, empower you on your journey. So that's up to you to soften within and be okay with asking for help, and knowing that there's many people here that can assist you and give you information and wisdoms. And know that in your heart, you can be that sovereign leader to know your own soul's journey. and to be okay with it. And that's self-empower, and that's sovereignty at its highest, that each and every one of us are remembering to empower within ourselves. And it comes through every soul relationship that we're threaded with and contracted with. However it plays out is unique to each and every one of us. So there's no right or wrong way or one way to do things. But you'll know as you awaken, wow, it doesn't feel good for me anymore. My soul just feels deprived. Or your spirit doesn't feel it's being honored, and you just feel like this. If you feel those energies of, or just being suppressed or squashed in any way, then that's where we wrote in that article, suppressing that light in any way is hindrance upon the soul's journey and the spirit's expectations to flow and move about. The soul just wants to evolve. The spirit wants to play. The spirit wants to explore. And so if we're not allowing it at the human level, that's the ego mind thinking that the ego knows more than spirit, that's when the imbalances and illness occur. And that's when dysfunction, codependence, narcissism, depression, alcoholism, anything that you can imagine, they're all threaded within the dysfunction of imbalance, based on our belief systems and how we hold ourselves worthy to be the source that we are, have always been. So we hope that that's helped. Understanding the beautiful transitions of ascension within soul relationships, how we contract them, we call them in. And sometimes our soul contract can have the most profound effect on us, even if it's just a quick meeting and conjuring of energy with one another. That can also be a part of it too. And some energies are meant to be with us, and some energies are meant to teach us and allow us to grow into our own inner strength and our own inner power, our creativity, our using our voice, whatever it may be, because again, we each have different themes and different ways to explore who we are as spirit. But just know that we are all one. It's one big family of love. And we're going to see and honor and pull and push, and it's going to be this friction, because that's energy. It's going to be this constant push and pull with us individually, allowing our own unique soul's journey to be conjured within source, harmonizing constantly, moment for moment. I am love, I'm whole, I'm healed. I choose this now. I choose this now. I choose this now. Every now is a new reality, vibrational thread. And it shifts all those around you. So the last thing I wanted to say, if I got off track, that my teams have constantly told me, which will ease up a bit of the pressure and the worry that our parents are going through, because many things will unfold and change in our next 20, 50 years. All of our socioeconomic systems will change. So be okay with that and expect change. Expect the beauty of change. Expect the excitement of change. And we're going to create another video after this. And it's going to go Imagining Beyond the 3D, which we're going to get into right now, just the ending. Our children and our families and our soul tribe, if you will, however we call our close family circles, whether it's just you. Again, there's the radiations from the soul that get sent out that call those people to you, that call your soul tribe, that call those divinely timed beings into your soul threading so that you can grow and expand. And how we honor it is that they have come with that contract at a soul level. They might not understand or remember it or even want to remember it as they're awakening and moving about their experience. That they have come to see you move in your honesty and your authenticity as a spirit, as a soul. So the soul contracts that become stagnant and become suppressed, if you will, is when we are not following the authenticity of our creative exploration of spirit. And why we wrote that article the week before that one about the creative expression and sovereignty are so very key for the evolution of all of us. So if we are suppressing who we are in any way, our creative light, if we're not expressing our creative light in any way, that light becomes suppressed, and then it becomes those blocks within the chakras that must be cleared. And because I've come with them over eons of lifetimes and eons of planets, it's been my entire life. I'm going to be, this is my birthday week. I've been clearing, just clearing and facing every single aspect of lack of self that I've had. And I've known it. Even when I was a child, I knew it. I knew it. I just came with that knowing, this is what I'm being shown I have to behave and act like, and yet it doesn't feel right for me. I knew that that was when the lack of self began to click in. And you just kind of, from being that star child, that omnipresent child, you just end up succumbing to social norms, and that creativity becomes completely blocked and suppressed. And that's why we're now healing. And so in a nutshell. Oh, too funny. And so great experience and great joys of all that we are as beings of holy light. And know that you have infinite teams, you have infinite support, Mother, Father with you, Source Creator, the omnipresence with you at all moments. Create your house with 5D energy, create your house with angelic energy. You have infinite possibilities to go beyond your imagining. And so stay tuned to our next video. We're going to talk about creating beyond 3D, imagining beyond 3D. And that's where we're actually pulling away the density of the fields, if you will, and we're opening into a new garden of love. And we're going to begin to stretch our imaginations into how we can begin actually living that 5D. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we love you, and we bless you always with the highest frequencies of omnipresence of who you are as an expressive, creative, exploratory being of holy light. And may you experience yourself as holy love, because you are. Namaste.